Okay, so we are ready to begin our monthly webinar. Welcome. I am Andrea. I represent Minoria. Minoria is a company that's always looking for solutions to bring genuine advantage to disadvantaged businesses. We have our supporters, SoCal Corporate Growth Partners, our sponsors and supporters of our initiations of helping businesses gain capacity, and grow. We are niched in the construction industry, so this most of our monthly webinars that take place in English are referred to the construction industry, but in essence, there's a lot of webinars that do apply to businesses in general. And this topic is one of them, essentials of safety compliances. We're going to be talking about the importance of safety. So before we start our webinar or our presentation, I would like to go over some of the highlights for the presentation itself and the topics that we're going to be considering. So on the bottom of your screen, you should have it on the bottom of your screen. You should have a Q&A button. Make sure to reserve all the questions towards the end of the webinar. And you also have a chat box. The chat box will be for if in case you are having some type of technical difficulties. I have Mauricio, that's part of our team, that's going to be answering and helping out with any of the technical issues you might have. So our topics or what we're going to be considering are regards of habits that can get your team united and safe, examples of experiences to learn, and understanding what an EMR is, an experience modification rating is. I'm pretty excited about that because there's a lot of contractors that really don't know what that is, and now we're going to be able to explain it, and that way they can understand it and do something about it, right? Help their ratings. So let's talk about why. Why do we want to be safe? Why do we want to have these habits of getting the unity between the team and practicing safety? The most important part is obviously if you follow safety procedures, you're saving lives. You really are. Your lives that can get impacted by your team members, family, and yourself. So that's the most important why, right? But we also have to be in compliance. So in California and any other state, there's OSHA guidelines that are going to be required of you to perform. So one of them is what's called a oh no, never mind. I failed to mention that we are going to have a copy of this presentation. We're going to send it to all the registrants, and we're gonna make sure that we send the video as well. But going back at Cal OSHA guidelines, I am including a lot of links because there's a lot of information in regards of safety. It is required of any employer, so it doesn't mean it's only construction companies, that we write an injury and illness prevention program. This is important because considering whatever industry you're in, you're gonna you have to go through the thinking process of understanding what will happen if for any reason an employee gets injured. If in case you want an example of how to execute that type of plan or that program, I included some of the links that will help you generate that program for your company. So according to OSHA, if this is another why, according to OSHA, if every dollar you invest in safety training can save you 4 to 6 in cost-related workplace injuries, and that's if in case this is a normal injury, right? Sometimes there's really expensive injuries and sad ones too. So it is important to consider safety at all times. So now let's go into habits. How do we establish habits in our workforce that will create this unity and safe condition within your workforce? Well, you got to make sure that it's included in your culture, right? And it all starts by leaders adopting these habits, this culture. If the leaders really believe and understand why we need to do this, then you won't have to face a negative safety culture. And usually it's because, if they see the boss not really taking care of, glove protection, making sure that their helmet is on, or any situation like that, they'll follow, right? So you got to make sure that you practice this all the time so everybody can continue that culture. Take advantage of resources. So, for example, OSHA offers a lot of workers' compliance training, safety courses, and I've included a lot of them well, a lot of them throughout the presentation, but I included some here of the education that they provide. Take advantage of that. Go into their website. There's a lot of resources that you can adopt. There's toolbox talks. That's if in case you have superintendents or managers, supervisors that need to have these sessions before. These toolbox talks are basically just ideas of how to refer, how to talk to your team members. And then if for any reason you deal with any type of equipment, you want to make sure that you're safely conducting that equipment. So there's also resources available for you to have that plan, that in mind in your plan. Enforce your safety program and invest in the right gear and supplies. It's so crucial to, once you include, it's okay if you have a plan, but if for any reason you don't execute, it really doesn't make sense. And if for any reason you're going to execute anything, it should be in safety. So make sure that you encourage your workers to speak up as you're going through the plan. And there's going to be improvements as you go. You're going to get to know your employees and try to adopt and accommodate whatever need they need in order for them to continue their practices of safety. Provide employees feedback. It's important for you to understand and have constructive criticism, especially from your employees. So if for any reason some practice they consider this boring, or something going on with inconsistency in safety practices, it might be a good idea to really listen. Supervise closely, make sure that they're doing enforcing all the safety standards. And then if for any reason it does happen, make sure that you investigate with OSHA all their law and record keeping, so you can make sure that you abide by that. And of course, there's certain insurance agents with any workers' comp claims, okay? Now, I really wanted to make this very, very resourceful for the participants here. I wanted to include a lot of material that you can use in order for you to really get through your team. Sometimes safety, when it comes to insurance, safety, and anything that has to do with that, if it involves a little more work, a lot of people won't even consider it. sometimes you're also working with certain cultures and certain differences in personalities that only one person, it takes only one person with a negative view on safety, where others will, it'll just be easy for others to follow. And you really don't want to go through that situation. So I'm providing a significant amount of websites where you can go and videos where you can go and make this um, culture fun for your team. And take advantage of this situation to empower your team as well. So there's checklists that you might want to go over and check out and have sort of like your protocol of what you need to include. Um, if you create certain team rituals, it'll be a standard process that a lot of the coworkers will understand and finally adopt as a routine. Those rituals can be as simple as, stretching. For example, I know of team members in warehouses where every morning they sing a certain song, related to their culture or their company, or mm, a song that everybody likes, and they do all the stretching procedures. They repeat after themselves, why they're doing this, and it's usually because you're doing it for yourself, for your team members, for your family. So those are need rituals that you want to enforce for them to understand that everybody needs to work as a team in order to stay safe. We also want to educate and motivate, not only with just training, but also watching certain videos that are going to be are going to be to a certain extent that are going to hit for to understand why they're gonna hit your heart, they're gonna hit your emotions to understand why. So I included some of the videos that are a little more let's say motivational, where you would want to share it with your crew, with your team, to really show that this is not just because it's a standard procedure that the company does. It goes further than that. It goes um, to protect and help and assist one another. So now let's talk about COVID-19 and how that sort of revolutionized safety, right? We obviously need to take extra steps besides the regular procedures that we used to have. So now, because of the COVID impact, in most cases, there, there's certain companies, or there's certain corporate companies or organizations that if you do business with them, they want you to have a plan in place, specific to COVID. I mean, they'll ask for the safety plan, the general safety plan that you will have for your company, but they're also going to ask for the COVID safety plan. And that's very important to generate. If you want to do some of the samples that are available, I provided two links to websites that are going to be able to PDF, to PDF formats that are going to give you sort of an example of how to create this plan for your company. And there's also do a lot of research in regards of all the guidelines. But COVID-19 is evolutionizing. It has its seasons, as everybody knows. So we want to make sure that we're up to standard in regards of COVID, in regards of vaccines, in regards of accessibility, social distancing, and everything else. So I do the Department of Industrial Relationships Relations has an example of that. OSHA obviously has a lot of information on coronavirus prevention. Now let's talk about experiences we can learn from. There's a lot of experiences we can learn from. Some are fatal, some are tragic. but I included some that are something that we can reflect on whenever we're working in a site or on a warehouse or a manufacturing plant. So the example of Russ Youngstrom, sorry. He shares, he actually does this for a living now. He had a situation where he ended up um, falling 30 feet from a job site and still survived. So now they travel across the country just to let people know the importance of safety. And I included their YouTube videos so you can see their story. I included also another story of Curtis Sanusi story. That he's a he was a 25-year-old construction worker, and he the uh, they were working on a trench. A wall of trench pretty much collapsed on him, and he ended up in a coma. These are just examples of understanding that it does happen. You can't be ignorant in saying this is not going to happen to me, but because it can happen at any time. It can be something as simple as just a small cut, not taking care of it, and later on, yeah, having even a fatality due to the infection. So you've got to be really, really careful. And I put this visual of the accident that happened back in 2010 of this BP oil company that had a chemical chemical spill that really caused a lot of damage to the ocean, to ocean creatures, and it killed 11 workers. So that can be asked. You can go into something really simple to something very, very expensive and tragic. Now, let's go into what an EMR is. Um, an experience modification rating is is like a credit score, right? It's a score for your safety, and it's very important um, not to take this lightly because it can cause you contracts. It can cause you a higher workers' comp um, uh, premium, and of course, it can affect in many ways. So if you don't have, if you're especially in the construction industry and you don't have an insurance agent that understands or is niched in the construction industry, at least build a relationship with someone that is, because it's very important for you to understand how it works. So I'm going to explain a little bit, but there's a lot more to it. And believe me, there's a lot more to it once you start getting into having comp claims. So what it is, like you mentioned, it's like a credit score. It's a factoring mechanism that will reflect your history of safety. So if you have a workers' comp claim, when you start your business in general, you're going to have basically a 1.0. That's the average. That's how you want to keep it. But if you lower it, that's better. Let's say the way you're lowering it is maybe providing all these safety compliance um, material that you're enforcing in your company, and then having years, right, with no accidents within. That's how you end up lowering your score, and the lower your score is, the better it is with your workers' compensation. You don't have to pay. You get reduced in premiums. It's all good. I mean, you show it to prospects, that are gonna use a construction project, especially when you're doing bids. bidding for any public projects, government or quasi-government entities, corporate companies, utility companies also. I mean, they're very strict in regards of providing your rating, and if your rate is over or higher than 1.0, they will not even consider you for opportunities. So you got to make sure that you take precaution in that situation. Sometimes there's employees that they don't realize that submitting a workers' comp will. There's employers that they don't realize that submitting a workers' comp claim does that much damage. Where in a lot of situations it could have been prevented, right? You could have used other alternatives, other options to solve the situation. Make sure to talk to your insurance company, your HR representative, or an HR specialist, so you can understand how you can avoid or how you can reduce your chances of having to file a workers' comp for your employee. Obviously, if there's injuries, you've got to file it, but there's a lot of education behind that where you can make very wise decisions. And then, if for any reason you do want to go into further into understanding EMRs, I included a website that will explain a lot of it. There, you can also Google EMR ratings, and you'll have tons of information on it. But just remember that whenever there's a workers' comp claim, these claims last for 3 years, but they do pile up, and the more they pile up, you can get a higher premium and a higher score. So sometimes, let's say you have a small work comp claim and you end up getting a 1.5, but within a year you get another one, then that 1.5 will go into 2.2, 2.5, and then if you get another one the following year, then that third year is really going to be a very high score of a 3.0, and that, you really don't want to go there, really. So I think that's about it in regards of safety. There's a lot more. Once you go, this presentation was pretty hefty, and it was reduced. But if you go into all the links, it's going to take a significant amount of time in regards of understanding. And I do highly encourage you to go through that for your company. It's very important. Now, in regards of questions, we're going to open it up. I believe there are certain questions, so let me check it out. Okay. Let's see. We have a comment or a question from Alan. How to measure this EMR for small contractors? What is the guideline? Oh, okay. So if you, like I mentioned, if you're a contractor that barely started, you haven't submitted any type of workers' comp claim, you're most likely at 1.0. That you measure it. That's pretty much like the basics. Yeah, the 1.0. If you have anything less than 1.0, then you have, 0.80 or 0.60, which is great. But if you have more, then it'll be like 1.5, 2.0. And when you're over a 1.0, that's when it starts causing issues in regards of opportunities. So to answer your question, Alan, I highly encourage you to go and talk to your insurance agent and ask him about this. If for any reason he doesn't know and he doesn't take the time to understand it and learn from it to help you, it might be a good idea to look elsewhere if you're in the construction industry, because having a good insurance agent that's going to help you in those ratings is going to be vital for for any your growth, right? For your contracting opportunities and your growth as a company. Herman, do you have more tips to increase my EMR? Um, yeah, talk to your insurance uh, agent. If, if all these resources that we provided are protocols that they you need to have, but the insurance when you're setting up your accounts, they're not going to ask for them. So maybe if you go into your insurance office and provide that information, I believe depends on the insurance company and your workers comp policy. There might be some opportunities where you can submit the safety plans, the protocols, and if there's no accidents, then we'll reduce it. If for any reason you do have accidents and you're getting to know and find out right now that this how it affects you, then you can certainly contact us and we can help you through that and giving you some further ideas of what you can do to. But it's obviously very important to pull out your ratings and find out how we can work with or we can help you solving that situation. More companies that provide the service of it are for okay. Like I mentioned, it's insurance companies, but the links that I'm providing when it comes to emergency, the EMR, is that's going to give you more resources. But again, if you don't feel like there's that's not enough, you can contact us. We do have professionals that are niched in the construction industry and serve and are insurance agents um, who know about workers' comp and how it works. Whenever there is, I've had situations that for any reason we're dealing with a contractor that does have a high EMR and wants a contracting opportunity. Sometimes those, like I mentioned, those workers' comp claims, they don't even. Sometimes the employer doesn't even know that a past employee actually submitted a workers' comp claim. So if for any reason that's the case, and you find out that that someone did, there's examples of there's a lot of organizations will allow you to submit an explanation letter to show why that EMR score is so high, because there's always two stories to the situation. So it will allow you to explain your story, and if they sometimes they'll have a panel and they talk about the situation, and if they see that it really wasn't your fault, it was the situation that was outside of your control, then they'll give you the opportunity to work with them. So there's a lot of areas where we can help contractors and other organizations are very that are reliant in opportunities due to the EMR. Well, I think I think that's about it. If you have any other questions, webinar, just make sure to connect. We'll talk to you next time. Thank you for participating. I really appreciate